You cannot work and pay your tuition in the United States, okay? Because first of all, DJ,
do your video.
Why not shouting at me? Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Victoria Ayodele Fash. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for joining me. For a new subscriber, you know I love you. You know I appreciate you so much. Thank you for always coming back. Okay, so today I have a very interesting topic to discuss. I've had a number of people asking me lots of questions. I know that we're kind of in the seasons where a lot of people have applied to schools and then they're getting feedback from their school, and a number of people are confused about some of the feedback they're getting and how to get assistantship, especially for those studying in the US. So in this video I will be talking a little bit about what you need to look out for when you get an offer from a school to study in the US, the difference between, you know, assistantship and scholarship, how to get them, and also just a few other things that I believe that you need to be aware of before you start or before you even accept an offer to study in the United States. So before we get into today's video, I am super excited to share with you guys one of the key things that you need to even have before you even go into the United States, okay? And if you're currently in the US, this is a platform that will transform your life, okay? So yes, I am talking about LEMFI, okay? If you're not new on this channel, you probably have heard me talk about LEMFI countless of times. So LEMFI is a reliable, quick, fast, amazing payment platform that I and my family members and all my friends in the United States, in the UK and in Canada used to send money to their family members in Nigeria and other African countries, including Kenya, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Benin, Tanzania, Uganda and Rwanda. Yeah. And what's so amazing about this platform is you get a zero transaction fee, okay? So apart from the fact that they get their money instantly, you are charged absolutely nothing to send monies to all your family members in these countries, okay? Let me just tell you the facts. LEMFI offers the best exchange rate in the market. You cannot get it anywhere else, okay? So in case you have family members and friends in all of these African countries that I've listed and you like to send monies to them from the US, Canada or the UK, use the link below in the description box. Just click on the description box below and you see a link there. Use that link to download LEMFI, and after you download, for your very first $150 transaction on the LEMFI app, you get a 10% cashback capped at $50, okay? So in case you already have the app, just use the code FASHFAM, as you can see below, FASHFAM, and you get a 10% cashback for your very first transaction to $150. So what are you waiting for, guys? Go ahead right now, use the link below now and download LEMFI, and make sure you use the code FASHFAM for your very first transaction on LEMFI. All right, thank you guys so very much. Okay, so let's get back to today's video. So like I said, I'll be talking and giving a few tips that you need to look out for before you accept your offer from any schools in the US, okay? I know that most people would, you know, apply to different schools in the US. Most people will apply to, you know, in a couple of schools, right? I know that majority of schools in the US requires you to pay an application fee, so you might not apply to a lot, but you know, I always encourage people to apply to at least one or two, because you never can tell the kind of offer that you're going to get, right? Now, after you get an offer from a school, before you determine whether or not you should accept the offer, or even if you have, because someone reached out to me recently, and you know, sometimes interpreting the offer letter, knowing what you're being offered, can be a bit tricky. So I am going to try to explain the differences that you need to look out for, right? So the first thing I always say is that if you're from any African countries, Nigeria, wherever you're coming from, most people cannot afford to pay tuition in the US. And I'm telling you the fact. You can be in the UK, and this is not comparison. This is just, you know, to buttress my points, okay? So don't come for me. Anyways, you can be in the UK and, you know, you're allowed to work here 20 hours. Your dependents can work. You can do that and still be able to pay your tuition fee, okay? However, in the US, it is impossible, and I am saying this and hearing clearly, okay? Because I've seen a number of people that are like, you know what, when I get there, I'm going to work and do. You cannot work and pay your tuition in the United States. Okay, because first of all, unless you attend the community college, which in which their tuition are usually like lower. First of all, if you have applied to a community college in the US, you have to do prayer and fasting for them to even give you a visa to attend, because most of them do not consider community college like reputable schools that I'm talking about the consulate officer. When you go for your visa interview, it's difficult for them to give you a visa. It's almost impossible for them to give you a visa. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that it's more difficult for you if you're going to a community college in the US to study. Okay, I'm not talking about those going for undergrad studies. If you're going for undergrad studies, that's a different case entirely, but I'm talking to those going for a master's degree. All right, so once again, you cannot pay your tuition. All right, and I don't want to sound like a broken record. The reason is because schooling in the US is very expensive. The average school in the US, you will pay about $40,000 to $50,000 to be able to study in the United States. When you're hearing that people in the United States, they have student loan, it's not because they don't like paying tuition. It's because it costs a arm, a leg, and an entire body to study in the US. So you need to make sure that, first of all, it's either you have your money saved, your family, maybe you're from a rich home and all of that, and you can afford to pay that money, especially with what Naira is saying right now. Anyways, you can afford to pay your tuition, or you have to ensure that you get either a scholarship or an assistantship. Now I'm going to distinguish between the two of them, because I realize that a number of people can be confused or have been confused and asking me questions a lot about what is scholarship and assistantship. A scholarship, most schools will offer like scholarship, that they will ask people to apply for scholarship. So if you go to the school's website, you will see where they say financial aid. You'll see a portal for financial aid. When you click on that, they will give you a list of financial aids that are available. Those financial aids are mostly scholarships, right? They will ask you to either apply for scholarship, and they have different criteria. They have some scholarships that are just for indigenes of the United States, or people from certain states, or people from certain income, like people from certain home that are within certain income. They have different criteria. Okay, so there is a difference. So the scholarship, usually people would apply, you write your application and ask them to give you scholarship. Sometimes they will give you 10% scholarship, 50,000 Naira scholarship, 50,000 Naira, okay, $50,000 scholarship, $20,000. So there's always an amount, that is associated with the scholarship. So that would be like a reduction to your tuition. Now there are other scholarships that would even give you a full tuition, the scholarship to cover your full tuition. Now those ones are tuition waiver scholarships. Those are also different. So when you go to your school's website, you go and look at the list of scholarship. Personally, I did not apply to any scholarship because it's always so competitive. Okay, a lot of students in the US apply for scholarship, a lot of other international students apply also. So I did not, right, because I was more tilted towards assistantship, but I will talk about that in a little while. But also, it doesn't mean it's impossible. I know people who got, I know somebody who got scholarship into Harvard. Yes, a full tuition waiver to go into Harvard. So you just have to make sure that when you're applying, you give them reasons why you should be the suitable candidate. So you talk about what you've done and mostly what you aim to achieve, what your master's degree is going to enable you to achieve. And your achievement cannot be selfish. It has to be something that will be beneficial to your environment, your society, your country, your state, or even your community. What you intend to go and do to be a change, that this degree will enable you to do that when you finish. So scholarship has to be, you have to present yourself as someone that is here for social change, right? And then you also have to put evidence of what you have done right now in terms of helping your community, your environment, in your course of study. So let me take, for example, right, my course of study in the United States was communication and advocacy. So how have I helped my community? When I was in Ghana, I and my friend founded they co-founded an NGO, and I was like the support staff in the NGO to help girls in the community and stuff. That is my passion. I've worked for several NGO. This is what I want to do. And then if I'm applying for a scholarship, I'll most likely say when I come back, I want to set up my own NGO in the rural part of Abuja, where you have, girls who are not allowed to go to school, are usually given into early marriages and stuff like that. And this is what this master's degree is going to enable me to do. So I will gain all the knowledge and the skills I need, and even get some connections whilst I'm studying to be able to enable me do this when I get back. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So you have to saw yourself as a social change leader when you're applying for a scholarship in the United States. All right, now let's talk about assistantship. Assistantship is different from a scholarship. An assistantship is you are going to be employed by the school to work for the school, either as an admin assistant, which is mostly a graduate assistant, a research assistant, or a teaching assistant. Okay, those are usually the three that is offered, right? Personally, I worked as an administrative assistant whilst in my scholarship, right? Whilst I was in the United States. So basically I was employed by the school. So what the school does, and now what you also need to know, because you are offered assistantship does not mean that they are paying your tuition fee. Okay, and I needed to understand this because I have had a couple of people who have reached out to me recently, like, oh, I was given assistantship and all of that. I'm like, okay, what kind of assistantship were you given? I was offered 3 assistantship when I applied. So basically, when you apply and you're given admission, in short, I always say don't wait till you're given admission before you start applying for assistantship. Okay, so when you're given admission, or before, after you apply to a school, they usually have a portal that they send jobs and assistantship positions. So basically, it's like you're applying for a job, only that it is an assistantship. It's a graduate assistantship position. It's like an assistantship position. That's the name, the title of the position, but it's literally like you're applying for a job. Okay, so this means that you need to make sure that your CV is tilted towards the role that you're applying for. So if you're applying as a teaching assistant, have you taught before? Even if you have not taught in a formal setting, have you helped, you are a teacher in your church, you help children in your environment, you teach them, you have to make sure that you put something in your CV or in your cover letter that talks about your teaching. Even if you've never taught before, what is your communication skills like? How have you been able to use that communication skills? Have you led a team? Have you trained people in a place of work and something like that? If you are applying for a teaching assistantship position, you need to be able to show that you can teach well, you can communicate well, and you have done that in the past. So you have to be reflective in your CV as well as in your cover letter. So it's basically like you're applying for a job. Your CV and your cover letter has to be tilted towards the job that you're applying for. So that's aside. If you're applying for a research assistant, you have to be very interested in research, which means that it's either you have sample of research you've done, or you talk a lot about the research you did in undergrad, and all of that. You have to have some kind of interest, or you're from the academic field and all of that, to be able to apply for a research assistant position. I'm not saying that this is the basis for everyone. Some people, they've never had experience in research, but because you're coming for a master's degree, it is assumed that you love research, or you are interested in that. So you just need to be able to sell yourself and make sure that your cover letter, even if your CV cannot sell that, make sure that your cover letter sells that. So most times you will attach both a cover letter and a CV when applying for an assistantship. For me, I applied as an admin, even though most of my roles has been in communication, but part of administration is also communication. And in my previous role, I've also worked as an admin assistant before. So I used that job as a leverage to be able to apply for this. I hope that makes sense for you. So basically, when you apply for a graduate assistant, they will tell you what is the role. They will tell you your job description, what you'll be doing. So make sure that your CV, your cover letter shows that you have done these things in the past, and therefore you can replicate it here, right? So you see the difference between scholarship and assistantship. Assistantship is usually tilted towards professionals, right? Things you want to do professionally, even academia also. But you see, scholarship most times is targeted towards social change, right? So you need to make sure that when you're applying for both, you are careful to know what to do. All right, okay, so now that's the end between assistantship and scholarship. Like I said, you need to make sure you get one of these if you're from African countries before you go and study in the US. Don't be saying because you are hearing that one credit is $800, for instance. For a private school in the US, one credit course can cost you $800 per semester. Remember that you have to take about, some courses is 4 credits you take every semester. For some schools it's 3 credits. I did 3 credits per semester. So times 800 times 3 for one semester, then times 4 for 4 semesters. So you need to make sure that you know what you're doing before you get into that, because it will cost you a arm, a leg, a foot, and the entire body if you're not careful. Now most times it's $800 for in-state students, sometimes for out-of-state students. Now another thing you need to know here is in-state and out-of-state. When you're offered assistantship, like I said, some people say they are offered assistantship, they are happy. You need to also know that some will tell you that you are giving a tuition waiver, an in-state tuition waiver. So like I said, first of all, it's not all assistantship that comes with a tuition waiver. So you need to be sure that, you know, there is a tuition waiver. Some people will give you a discount. Some will tell you that they will pay 10% of your tuition fee and give you assistantship where they'll be paying you a stipend every month. So let me say this again. Assistantship mostly will come with a monthly stipend, which is like your salary that, you know, they will pay, you know, if you were a full staff. But for us, it's called a stipend, right? For a student, it's called a stipend. Now, some will also give you, in addition to that stipend, they will also provide you with a full tuition waiver or a discount to your tuition. What they usually do is either they give you an in-state tuition waiver or an out-of-state tuition waiver. Now, I've explained this in the previous video, but I'm just going to do that again. When you are given an in-state tuition waiver, it is assumed that you are a student in the States. So I studied in Virginia, right? The amount of tuition for my course in the US was about $40,000. A person, an indigene of Virginia, will pay $20,000 for that course. Why me? Because I'm considered out of state. Myself or any other person that is even a citizen of the US but is in a different state, right? I have one of my roommates stayed in Maryland. Maryland to Virginia is 1 hour 30 minutes, but that person is paying the same tuition as me that I am paying as an international student because they are out of state. Now, mostly an out of state tuition is ×2 of an in-state tuition. For some school, it's more. Right? So whilst an in-state person, a person from Virginia, is paying $20,000 in my class, I will be paying about I was paying $40,000 for my course, right? For some schools, it's per year, $40,000 per year. I think for my school it was it was for the 2 years, so it's $20,000 per year, right? So that's $10,000 per semester, right? So if you apply for an assistantship, most times assistantship will come 1 year, and then if you do well academically and you impress them in your job, they will extend it to the 2nd year. So that was what happened for me. My assistantship was actually extended to the 2nd year, but I had to cancel it because I was leaving the US, right? So normally you will get 1 year, and nobody is going to ask you for proof of fund for 2 years. They always ask you for 1 year, you know, proof of fund. So your assistantship will either come with in-state. If you are giving in-state tuition, please make sure that you can afford the remaining half. Don't assume that because they said tuition waiver, then you have tuition waiver. Make sure that you check if it's in-state or out of state. If it is in-state, it means that you're paying 50% of your tuition fee. And now for the like the school that I attended, that would be that I will have to pay $20,000 whilst the school will pay $20,000. Now, I could not afford that. So the other assistantship that I got, I had to refuse it, right? And then until I got another one that gave me a full tuition waiver for out of state tuition waiver. So make sure that when you see in-state and out of state, you are clear. Out of state means that everything, as long as everything that regards your tuition is waived as an international student. So they are giving you your full tuition waiver, not in-state, but full. And then they are also paying you a monthly stipend. So make sure that you are aware of these terms, and when you are unclear, please send the school an email, send the school's admin or finance department an email that, okay, can you please provide me with because normally before you are issued an I-20, they will ask you. I-20 is like your visa document, the first one. That's like the school giving you a document to take to the consulate officer that they are sponsoring you. But before any school will give you an I-20 document, you need to show them proof of fund that, you know, you are able to afford this. So for me, when I applied, I didn't get the assistantship before my offer letter came. So immediately my offer letter came, the school had sent me an email to send them proof of fund, and I told them that they should give me a few minutes. They should give me some time. Usually they will even give you time. They'll give you like a month, right? That I have applied for assistantship and I'm waiting for a response, right? So the moment I get the response from the assistantship that covers everything, I send them the letter, and then the school will now send me the discounted the school will then send me a new, I know, I'm checking, a new babe, please get ready so that when I'm done we leave, please. Chogbo? Yeah. All right. So the school then sent me, I think, $5,000. That was the money for insurance, because your assistantship does not cover insurance, or it doesn't cover insurance and admin fee. So I think it was left with $5,000. So after my full tuition waiver I get my monthly stipend, so they would deduct that, and then I think they asked me to show proof of $3,000 or so. So I was able to show that, you know, for my health insurance fee. So that was the only proof of fund that I needed to provide. So you need to make sure that you ask them what, you know, how much is left. This is the assistantship offer I have. Please confirm how much is left for me to show as proof of fund to be able to get my I-20. So make sure that when you're confused, please ask questions, but please be aware. Don't say because you've got an assistantship from one department, you stop applying for assistantship in other departments. And that's the thing. Every department is always in need of graduate assistants, but it's very competitive also. So you need to make sure that you apply quick, and you make sure that your CV and your cover letter are strong, okay? The difference between HBCU and PWI, okay? The HBCU is historically black colleges and universities. PWI is predominantly white institutions, okay? Yeah. I attended a PWI, and you know, you guys know the story that happened. I'm telling you, I have friends that are in that same school, and you know, they're doing amazing. They're about to finish, you know, their master's degree. They will be having their graduation in May. A lot of them never had any issues in the school. Of course, I won't say never had any issues. I'm sure they're like, I know a number of people who had, you know, all these little issues that in the HBCU school you probably would never have that, right? But in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to pursuing your academics and all of that, they never had any issues, and they are doing very well. Many of them are looking at how to get their post-study, their, what do you call that visa now? Their 1 year, I think, post-study, I don't know what they call it again, visa, stay permits, and anyways. So many of them are doing quite well in the academics, but really you cannot compare this. If you're a black student coming from an African countries, I always say that, first of all, you see, this is the fact. If you apply to PWI, because they are trying to up the numbers of the black students in the school, a lot of them would most likely offer a black person assistantship. They won't come out to say that's why. They will say it's because of your qualification and all, but you have higher chance in being accepted. The problem with HBCU schools, that's historically black schools, is the fact that, you know, there are lots of black students competing for the same assistantship. So you might not be outstanding. There might be nothing that distinguishes you apart from your qualifications and experience from other students. So the play field is leveled, okay? I'm not saying in all PWI schools it's like that. It's not leveled. I'm just saying that, you know, there's a higher chance of you being accepted for giving assistantship and maybe even scholarship in PWI schools than you would in HBCU schools. However, when you're talking about having a good, because if you'll be spending 2 years of your life in a school, you want to make sure that, you know, it's a school where you have inclusivity, and you know, you have a student body that is fighting for you and all of that, and you will not get that in a PWI as much as you would in an HBCU school, okay? So make sure that when you're applying or you're deciding which school, so imagine if you have assistantship from both schools, I will always say go for an historically black school, because first of all, you find students that think like you, act like you, look like you in the school. A lot of them. In PWI school, you most likely not find them in your school, and even when you go to stores and around, it's not really friendly. You know, it might not be, don't let me say it might not be as friendly as you would. It definitely is not as friendly as you would in an HBCU school. I hope that explains the difference between both, okay? So at the end of the day, the ball is in your court, whichever one you decide to go. But if you have the option of choosing between PWI and HBCU, and you know, you have full tuition waiver, assistantship and all, I will always advise that you go for a historically black community school, colleges and university. However, if you only get an offer from a PWI, there's nothing stopping you. Go ahead, but just make sure that when you get to the school, what did they ask you to go and do? That's what you focus on, okay? Don't try not to get into any trouble with, you know, students of different races. Try to just go to school, do what you are supposed to do. Don't see, and this goes for if you are in any school in the United States, please don't work illegally. I know people tell you that, oh, there are ways they are doing it, and it's true, there are ways they are doing it, but don't get caught. Do not get caught, okay? Anyway, so that's what I'm going to say. I will never advise you to work illegally, because once you get caught, it's forever bye-bye, okay? You will get a ban, and you get banned from other countries that they share, including the UK, Canada, and the rest of it. So please, you don't even want that in your record. Just go and make sure that you have the funding before you attend any school in the United States, okay? And if you don't have the funding, make sure that you get, you know, the assistantship or scholarship that will help you to be able to do that. Don't ever assume that you will get to the US and you will work to pay your tuition, because first of all, you cannot work outside of school except for your long summer holiday, and even for that it has to be for something related to your course. You need to get a supervisor's approval that will monitor it. It's a lot. Most times international students have to work within the school, and you will know school is going to pay you what you will get outside. So I hope you understand that. So you need to be very, very careful. Even working internationally is not permitted. If you're coming with your spouse cannot work in the United States. They cannot work, okay? They're only there to support you. They cannot work. So you will have to sponsor the two of you. So you need to be mindful. I always advise my single people, if you are single, the US is the way. Go there, you know, everything will be well. You find husband, you get sponsorship, you get married or whatever. But if you're married, it gets tricky because your dependents cannot work in the US, and you cannot work more than 20 hours in a week within the school, right? And during break, you work 40 hours a week also within the school, unless you are lucky enough to get something outside the school and get approval from your school. So please, it's dicey. Don't start what you cannot finish, okay? That's where I'm going to end my pep talk for today, or my TED talk for today. I need to get to work. Oh my God. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until we meet again, I still remain Victoria Ayodele Fash. I'll see you guys in the next one, okay? Bye. Mwah. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, okay? Bye, guys.